Assalamu alaikum viewers, this is Safraz Karni from Pagame. I'm joined by Shoaib Abdullahi from Finland. We're going to talk to him about his research in the subject of shirk. Before we go on to his research on this subject, I want Brother Shoaib to please tell us, all our viewers, about his journey. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam, brother. Assalamu alaikum to my viewers as well. As you all know, my name is Shoaib Abdullahi. And most people know me for my diverse lectures on Islamic topics based on the Quran alone. My journey to the Quran alone started in Finland. That is way back in the year 2010. But before that, I've been to madrasa back in my home country. I've been to a Shia madrasa belonging to Shiites, and I've been to a madrasa belonging to Sunnis. So combinedly, I would say I've done a bit less over 5 years combinedly, studied with them. But basically, what we studied is we studied the recitation of the Quran, and we studied hadith,
Right.
and we studied the modern standard Arabic, that is MSA. So with my experience based on all this, I'm a kind of person who has been intellectually blessed by God in such a way that I'm gifted in studying something by my own. I can teach myself. Ever since I was in school, all my testimonials, all the certificates I got, they endorse me on that.
Nice.
Particularly, I'm the kind of student that teachers endorse and say this guy can teach himself. So I took it as a habit that let me investigate things. Let me start doing research. But I didn't start that till when I got to Finland. Right. So in 2010, I will call it like you don't guide yourself, God guides you. Just like he told the prophet in chapter 93, وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. He found you astray and gave you guidance. So similarly, if God can choose an ordinary person from the Arabs and guide him and make him a prominent person, why can't the same God do it to any other entity out there? So I was just one day sleeping in the night and I woke up and I was crying. I kept crying and I don't know why I'm crying. So I just felt like, what is wrong? What is wrong? And what happened at that night is whatever number of the verse number comes in my head, I go online and search the Quran, whatever verse number comes in my head, and I search the verse. Whatever verse I find is related to the dream I just had.
Unbelievable.
Yes. So if the dream is about hellfire, whatever verse number comes in my head, at that time I haven't actually memorized the lessons in the Quran. Because back in my country, the only thing they teach you is how to recite the Quran and how to read. They don't teach you the lessons behind the Quran.
Right.
So let's say what they do is you come to madrasa today, they will teach you how to recite, let's say, maybe Suratul Fajr. So they teach you how to recite it. But after teaching you Suratul Fajr, they don't explain anything to you.
So like there's no interpretations or anything?
No interpretation whatsoever. Then they will take you to what do you call hadith and start teaching you 40 hadith, hadith al-Qudus, hadith al-Wat Bukhari. So they teach us all these things. So I was growing up, for people who actually know me, they know me as an intelligent boy growing up.
Right.
I was a person who was critically thinking in different ways already. Even though I didn't receive, I won't call myself that I was guided at that time. But I was more inclined to the Sunni type of beliefs when I was back in my country in Ghana.
Right.
So when I got to Finland, when I started having such dreams, that was way back in 2010 in August. It was during a few weeks to Ramadan during that time.
Okay.
So I was having these strange dreams, and it has to do with hellfire and how I was trying to save people, but they are not paying attention because they are looking down on me, thinking, "Oh, look at him." Excuse me to say, he's an African, he's a black guy, and he's this, he's that, or he's not even rich. So who is he to tell us? So I was having such weird dreams. When I have a dream that I'm predicting something to somebody, I'm giving a prediction. Whenever I wake up and I mention the same prediction to somebody, it comes to pass. So I started researching the Quran. I started studying the Quran actually. But before I started studying, a verse number would just pop into my head. Whenever the verse pops in my head, whatever I'm thinking about, if it is hellfire, if it is paradise, and I open the Quran, that is what I see. Then I'll see paradise is talking about paradise, it's talking about hell. So that drove me deeper into starting to do research. So when I started doing the research, the first question I got from somebody, which is my brother, he asked me, hey, it's Ramadan time, why are you not fasting? And I told him, God says in chapter 17, verse 36, وَلَا تَخَفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. Do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. So why should I fast when I don't know about fasting?
That is true.
Then he said, are you trying to say the majority are wrong? I said, I'm not speaking for the majority. But what I can tell you is, I just saw in the Quran, chapter 6, verse 116, it says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If you obey most of those on earth, they will mislead you from the way of God.
That is true.
Then God says, وَإِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا ظَنَّ وَإِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَخْرُصُونَ. They only follow what? Assumption. When we say zonna, you are just guessing and assuming things that you don't know. And then God says, and they are only guessing. They only guess. If you tell them, brother, is this the month of Ramadan? He'll tell you, I think so. You say, why? He say, can't you see the majority doing it? So what do you mean majority? So I started to question things around that time.
That's a good point.
Yes. When I started to question things, I started doing more research. Then I found out that the more you study, the more deeply rooted in knowledge you become. Right? But all this while I was having a connection with a ruhu with me. I got to confirm that in chapter 58, verse 22, where God says he will support you with a spirit from him. So then when I saw that verse, I started having shivers all over my skin. I was like, what? I never knew about this verse. So how come I'm seeing it later on? So then I got to understand, is God convincing me? So what happened was, in order to convince the people around me, somebody will ask me, he say, hey, I heard you called somebody, you told him this will happen, and it happened. Okay, can you tell me what will happen with this or that? And actually, to be honest, God actually gave me that gift. It lasted for a month. And when it lasted for a month, after a month, I started feeling like a normal human being again. Like an ordinary human being, meaning I felt powerless. I felt like the only weapon I had was my knowledge, my brain, that I can use to actually. So I started reading the Quran the more. So that is the actual interesting factor which pulled me to the Quran. I didn't come to the Quran with the notion of Quran alone or saying, oh, this or I need to join a group. No, I never had that kind of thought at all. No, never. You understand?
So very, very interesting, brother. You have very interesting.
So this is how it all started. So then I got the feeling that, okay, this is the way God gave me the calling, and this is where I need to put my head towards to, because I had the feeling when I got the guidance from God through the Ruhu, this is how it felt. I felt powerful. And at that time, I told God that, God, I want you to give me one gift. The gift I want you to give me, let it be visible for the world to see. And what is that gift? I told him to make me superior in understanding the Quran to the scholars out there. So how do I get convinced that God has answered my prayer? I told God, let me, whatever masjid I will enter in Finland here, let me be unstoppable. And God bear me witness. This is exactly what happened. Whatever masjid I enter, name it, whatever scholar is there, finds me unstoppable. Because in the first place, people think you have to be eloquent in speaking Arabic before you can be gifted with understanding. They are two different things. They are not the same. So you can be eloquent as speech, but you lack understanding. Whilst somebody might not be eloquent in speech, but he has more understanding than you. So this is what I prayed to God. Because when we were in the madrasa, they were enticing us to be able to recite, to do the tajweed. And for my scholars who know me, my teachers who know me back in the days in Ghana, they know I wasn't interested in that. ever since I was studying in Ghana. I tell them, this is not what I want. To be eloquent is not my thing. I want to grasp the message.
Right.
This is what I need. So when you grasp the message, it makes you superior to somebody who thinks he knows how to sing, how to recite, or how to. And that is what got me here today. You see,
So
so
you were doing critical thinking for a long time. Like
yes, for a long time, long time. And as I said, it's a gift that God has given me with the critical thinking. For people who know me around my community growing up, my family members, they all know me as a person with critical thinking. Excuse me to say, when I was growing up as a kid, even whilst I was a young guy, I could have friends who are above 30s, 40s, trying to befriend me and even coming to me to seek for advice. You see, even at the time, I didn't have guidance yet. I have people who were twice older than me calling me up to seek for an advice. And as I'm talking right now, my dad, who is 70 years old, even calls me to seek for an advice. Because he understands God has given me the guidance and he understands my potentiality in whatever I do. So this is what got me to the Quran alone. I didn't have the concept before.
Yeah, brother, this is very interesting journey you have shared with us, with our viewers. And, now we want to get to our subject today. And I have seen some of your lectures you did about the Shirk. And I want you to please share your research. How serious is this subject in everybody's life today, which probably people sometimes misunderstood and they think it's not a big deal and they take it lightly. I want you to please share your research about that to our viewers.
Good. Now, so when we mention the word shirk, like people try to like Romanize it to make it sound English. The word shirk is not an English word, it's an Arabic word. And then, like I said, the last time we had a conversation, I was telling you to understand every concept of the Quran, you need to go back to the root. Whenever Quran mention a word, go back to the root to understand. Now, the Quran is the source of guidance that we need. So in order to get a guidance concerning a word, a subject, or an issue, we have to go back to the Quran, because God says in chapter 4, verse 59, He says, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. He says, if you dispute in anything, you have any misunderstanding in anything, then refer it to God and the messenger. Now, the only way we can refer it to God and the messenger is through the Quran, because God gave the messenger the Quran to bring to us. He never gave him any other book to bring to us. So this is where we get our answers. So now, when we mention the word shirk, which we can find in chapter 31, verse 13, where Luqman alayhi salam told his son that shirk is a great injustice, zulman azim, a big injustice to do, or it's a big transgression, we can say. Now, when you take the word shirk, sharika or shirka, is just 3 letters in Arabic. The literal meaning to understand in the Quran, because when you're dealing with words in the Quran, it has to do with literal and non-literal meanings. This evidence can be found in chapter 3 of the Quran, verse 7. Some verses are muhkamat, that is muhkamat, which is precise, can be used for judgment straight without any argument on it. Then we have some with a mutashabiha. Mutashabiha, when something becomes similar to something, then the other one becomes non-literal and the other one becomes literal. So just because if God mentioned the word kitab here, it shouldn't always mean kitab, wherever you find it in the Quran. No, it doesn't work like that in the Quran. Then we have somewhere where God will say salah. It doesn't always have to mean salah, maybe prayer or something. It will have, the concept will change. So when we take the word, the shirka, in whatever context you find God mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mean idol worship or associating with God. No. I can give you the example. When you go to chapter 17 of the Quran, verse 64, I will take you to that verse. where God was telling us concerning Iblis. He used the word washarikuhum fil amwalihim. Washarikuhum. This word sharikuhum in a plural form means you should partner with them in their wealth or associate with them in their wealth. So when you take the word sharikuhum, bilarakat, sha, that's a sheen. Then you have the alif madda. Then you have the rahu. Then you have the ka. So sharik, sharik. When you take the alif madda there, you have the root. That's the shirka there.
Right.
So washarikuhum fil amwal, partner with them, associate with them in their wealth and their children. In that verse, it mentions that. So if always you have to just denote the word as just shirka, idolization or whatever, in that context, you can't use it as idolization or whatever, because it's talking about the devil partnering with us in our wealth,
right?
Which we can see people who sell their souls to the devil in order to get riches, fame, popularity, and we can witness that as well. You see. So then again, God spoke about that in chapter 17, verse 111, where he says, قل الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك. He says ولم يكن له شريك في الملك. He does not have any partner or associate in his dominion. You see, so sharikun here, sharikun. When we take bilarakat, we can see the she, that's a shin. Then we can see the yai, then we see the raw, then we see the ka. Sharikun, yeah? Sharikun fil mulk. So now in here, it's talking about the partner. It doesn't mean God does not idolize or, do idolatry. No. He does not have partner and associate in terms of his dominion. So in this context, we can get the literal meaning of the word shirk. It gives you the literal meaning. Now, when we have to do the non-literal sense of shirka, this is where I'm going to break it down. When I take you, let's use Muhammad alayhi salam, the messenger himself, as an example. When we go to chapter 39, then I take you to, let's say, verse 65. Chapter 39, verse 65. And let's see what God says concerning the word shirk and in which context it has been used, so that we can differentiate the literal and non-literal meaning of the word shirk. Now, one thing I exhort people to understand when dealing with the Quran is, sometimes when you see people dealing with the Quran, what they do is they leave the Quran to go outside to find lexicons, trying to find meaning to words in the Quran, which is sometimes very dangerous, because you need a particular guidance in order to do that first.
Right.
It's just like, for example, before I explain chapter 39, verse 65, I've been in Finland here for about 11 years now. Now, I cannot just go without studying Finnish language. I cannot just go and take dictionary and I think I know how to use words. It's wrong. I'll crumble the language, right?
Right.
Because you need to first understand from the Finns how to use the words before you can use dictionary to break words down. Because the dictionary can give you precise meaning of words, but you will use it in the wrong form if you don't know the structure of the language.
That is true.
You see. So when I encounter people, they say, Shoaib, how did you come by this meaning? No, I'm not ignorant to Arabic language. I've studied Arabic language. I've studied. So I know the roots and how they structure words and use them, right? So I don't need to be fluent in terms of speaking to determine that I understand Arabic. There's two different things altogether.
So when they argue about that, like for example, most of the Arabic people, they always refer to them. Oh, these guys know Arabic. They must have known Quran better than us. I mean, that's a false assumption. I mean, you can't.
100% false assumption, because if that was working in that category, Muhammad alayhi salam, who was Ummi, wouldn't have been the teacher of the Arabs to teach them how to understand
Right,
the Quran.
exactly. Yeah,
They will have told him, hey, give us the book and go. We don't need you. We can teach ourselves.
right.
You understand? And there is no one single
A good
country on
point.
this
Yeah,
earth, Arabian country on this earth, who can claim the dialect in the Quran is their dialect. It's a lie.
right,
Never. No single Arabian country can claim that. And
right.
no Arabian country on this earth speaks the Arabic dialect in the Quran. They don't, no country in this earth. The closest they have is what they created, which called Fusha. Fusha only was created after the Quran. It didn't come before the Quran. Before the Quran, there wasn't any language called Fusha. No. So when we go back to chapter 39, verse 65, let's see how we can understand the shirk in a non-literal context, right? So he says, God is talking to Muhammad alayhi salam. He says, وَلَقَدْ أُوهِيَ إِلَيْكَ أُوهِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. Then he says, لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ. This word, the shirk, you see it here. لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ. Then he says, لَيَحْبَتَنَّ أَمَلُكَ.
Right.
Then he says, وَلَتَكُونُنَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. What does the verse mean? And it says, and it has certainly been inspired to you, Muhammad alayhi salam, and to those before you, which are the prophets, the messengers, and all of the prominent people we had in the past concerning the deen, that if you associate others, for those who want to know that even this same warning was given to the previous prophets, you can check chapter 6, verse 80 to 88 to 89. The same similar warning was given to the previous prophets. So he didn't start with Prophet Muhammad. Now, so God says that if you associate others, you see in this context, if that is in this way of associating, which means if you idolize others, it doesn't mean associate as to in terms of my business, I will just take you as a business associate or partner. That means I'm a shirk, I'm a mushrik. No. So in this context, the word shirk becomes a non-literal sense. We don't use it literally.
Right.
Yes. Because if you use it literally, every Dick, Tom, and Harry will just take this verse and say, oh, God says I shouldn't associate myself with other people.
Right.
You see, So associating others here means in the form of shirk. And how can we know that? How can we know that? We can simply know that when we study chapter 72, verse 18 to verse 20. So let me break it down here. In Surah Al-Jinn, chapter 72, verse 18 to verse 20. When you go to verse 18, it says, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. You can see here God is giving you his oneness and telling you the masjid, the place of prostration, the place of worship, is for God alone. So do not invoke anyone except God.
This is very important ayah. So
Yes.
I have a question on that, because when you go to masjid,
yes,
you see what's going on in the masjid, right?
Yes.
So they talk about the riwayats or hadiths. They don't talk about actually what Quran says. And also you see on the walls, you see the, they put
Allah, Muhammad, yes.
Right, exactly. So that is the question. I mean, what is going on there? I mean, do you think this is part of the shirk?
Yes.
Going on?
Yes, brother, may I ask you a simple question? When you build a house, will you put your servant's name next to your name on the house, as to you, both of you own the house?
That's a good point.
Say, brother Safraz, when you build a house, will you put your name with your servant's name? If I say servant, excuse me to say, maybe you have a housemaid or maid in the house, or you get me, who is serving you. Will you put your name and the servant's name, especially next to yours, in the same lane, on top of the house to claim ownership?
That is a very good point, Brother Shoaib. Well, you gave a very good example.
Good. If the answer is no,
all the prophets, all the messengers are God's servants. They came in this planet to spread Allah's message. That's all.
Yes, that is the point.
Very good.
Quran chapter 21, verse 26 to 27 to 28 testifies to that. They are honorable servants of God.
That is true.
So why will you put an honorable servant of God next to the name of God? And not even below the name. Is you are putting it equivalent to the name of God. Whilst he's telling you in chapter 112, he says, Walam yakullahu kufuwan ahad. He does not have any equals. You don't compare anything to him.
Opinion. When you go outside, you see a lot of people like that. And they think they don't accept that what they're doing is shirk. And they think it's normal. And that's why they keep doing this every single day. So what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, and this is why doing such programs is relevant to this course. You understand? Because people don't know the structures of their deen. People don't know. They only tell them 5 pillars in Islam, then they start doing, oh, this is Salah, this is Shahada, that's it. They don't tell them the consequence or the do's and don'ts. Actually, God has instated. They don't tell people that. And this is what where the problem is. Because whoever wants to become a Muslim today, they just let him skip off straight from the Quran to the hadith.
Right.
So then he ends up missing the point, the link of the command from God, actually. So last time I was telling you, the only thing that will make you safe in front of God is to dedicate the religion to God 100% entirely.
100%, right.
Yes, mukhlisina lahu dinahu nafa. That is what will make you secure. As I gave the example, coming to a country as an immigrant, and you got a legal job without having a working permit. How does it work? You need to have a working permit in order to do a legal job. Because
Right.
the moment you are doing a legal job without a permit, we don't call it a legal job anymore. It's nullified. It's because when you are arrested, what do you tell the police? You tell the police, oh, I was only playing. No.
Right.
You understand? All your earnings will be confiscated because you cannot prove the validity of your wealth or whatever source of income. So when we come to the deen, the reason why I was using Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam as an example is to just tell you the dangers of what people are playing with.
I was going to say the same words. Dangerous.
Yes, the dangers, because what they try to do is they overlook the warnings that even God was giving to their prophet that we venerate so much.
Exactly.
Look at the warning God is giving him.
Right.
Then how much less you? You get the point.
One surah and ayat, probably you know the numbers. I forgot the number. He said, even if our messenger is screwed up with our message, I'm gonna.
Chapter 69.
Right.
Chapter
I'm
69.
gonna get it.
Yes, 69, verse 44 downwards.
Even he's not allowed to twist anything.
No, he's not allowed. But now look at the ulama.
Such a big
So
verse.
if he is not even allowed, but look at the ulamas. Look at what they are doing.
It's
look at how they are twisting.
Unbelievable.
So this is the dangers here. Because people are not cautioned and told the dangers of what could happen. For instance, if I'm driving and it says speed limit 80, somebody should be able to explain to me the reasons why the speed limit is 80 so that I will not trespass the limits. If nobody tells me that was what will cause me to trespass the limit, because I don't know the consequence. I don't know, death could happen. I don't know, I could be in jail. I don't know. So I might just go over 80 thinking, oh, nothing will happen. Let me just go. People need to be cautioned.
Right. You know, the problem I've seen, like, for example, Quran is like a textbook, right? It gives you all the rules and the laws, right? A, B, C, D, E, F. And then the scholars comes on board and they say, well, maybe Allah meant to say that. Maybe Allah meant to say, you cannot change the facts, A, B, C, D. I mean, this is unbelievable. And that's what they're doing. They're playing dangerous game. Oh, it means maybe it's probably mean this. That's why I think we can do like ijtihad. You know what ijtihad? Like make some room and this and that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's also part of shirk. What do you think, brother?
It is actually, and this is why I love the idea that we are having this topic today, because I'll be able to break it down to show you the evidences concerning what shirk is about and how magnitude the dangers are. right? The issue of shirk is a grave danger, so much so that it nullifies your job, your work with God, right? It nullifies whatever you're doing between you and God. So let's delve deeper a bit in the topic, then you understand the reasons as to why whatever you just asked me, the views you needed, the opinion you needed, I'll rather give you the facts from the Quran, then you can actually see the fact. Now, when I take you back to chapter 39, verse 65, Surah Al-Zumar, actually, where it says, and it has certainly been inspired to you and to those before you, that if you idolize, this is to associate others, that is with God, that is the word, ashrakta. Ashrakta here in this context, it cannot be used literally. Like I gave you the example of the literal meaning, right? To partner, to associate. But in this sense, it's talking about to idolize someone else other than God, right? If you do that, your work, then God says, la yahbatanna amaluka. Then your work in the deen will become worthless. That is useless.
Right.
And you will be among the losers. Now, look at the magnitude of this. God is not talking about other crimes. He's only talking about shirk only.
Right.
Which can nullify your work. Shirk only.
Right.
So this goes back to the ikhlas I was talking about the other time, the sincere devotion. You have to dedicate yourself to God. Don't associate any partner in it. That is what will secure you. So after the prophet getting this warning himself, this is what he said in chapter 72, verse 20. Surah Al-Jinn. This is what he himself said. He says, Kul innama adu'u rabbi wala ushriku bihi ahada. He says, indeed, I only invoke my Lord, and I do not idolize or associate others with him, anything with him. Anyone.
Right.
He used the word ahada. Anyone. It can be anyone, it can be anything. Ahada.
Right.
He doesn't associate. He invokes his God. That is concerning the deen. Of course, when it comes to business, I can associate with somebody. When it comes to other things, my investment, my other things, of course, I can associate with anybody.
Sure.
You understand? But
like,
when it,
right.
Yes.
When the order is from Allah, you cannot inject your own stuff and say, well,
Exactly.
you have to listen to me also, and then we'll make it combine and make it better or worse. It doesn't work like that.
Now, all these things happen, just like I was using Muhammad alayhi salam to give you the example. It happens because we don't know the assignment God has given us in the first place. If we know the assignment, things will be easier for us. The assignment is mentioned in chapter 51, verse 56. When God was stating to us exactly why he created the human being and the jinn. He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. He says, I did not create the jinn and the human being except to serve me, to worship me, to serve me. Now, some people might not agree with me and say, oh, no, we are not here to worship God. Yes, I can prove that. In chapter 5, verse 54, when you read 55, when you read till 56, it explains worship there. So let's see the evidence here. Chapter 5, verse 54 to 55 to 56. For anybody who tell you there's no concept of worshiping God in the Quran, just give them this verse. Chapter 5, verse 54 to 55 to 56. That is for people who tell you the word a'abuda, ibadah, or to serve. It cannot mean worship.
Right.
In Arabic, when you take the Quranic word, every word has multiple meanings.
Right.
You can only decide the meaning through God, because the book of God is the guidance. Don't go to lexicons to decide a meaning of a word. It's wrong.
Right.
You decide the meaning of a word based on how God has used it. That's how to decide the meaning of the word. Yes. So similarly, for instance, there is a particular word maybe I would say, for example, let's take the case of Urdu. I know in Urdu you have different dialects in let's say Pakistan. Obviously, there are different dialects, and now when you let's say you left let's say Lahore and you go to let's say Karachi or somewhere else, there's a certain type of word you might use in Lahore which means something else.
Right, that's true.
When you take it to the other state or city,
Pakistan,
they use it differently.
Right.
You understand? So you can only understand what it means based on their concept, on understanding.
That's true.
Then they will tell you, we use it this way because it means this.
Right.
It doesn't mean they are wrong, neither does it mean you are wrong. But since you are dealing with them, you need to understand their concept, not yours.
Right.
So similarly, when you're dealing with God's words, you don't go out of the Quran to take lexicon to break down meanings in the Quran. You mess everything up. Because whoever did the lexicon doesn't know what God was talking about before translating that word on his own differently. You see, so people will ask, then how will we know certain meanings in the Quran? That's why the Quran is here to do tibyanan likulli shay'in. It's a clarification for all things. And it's to serve as a guidance for mankind. It didn't say for the Arabs, for mankind, which means everything has been explained by God himself. We can find the meaning of words in the Quran.
Right.
The other day I was telling a brother, he said, how do you know the meaning of hadith based on the Quran alone? How can I know the meaning of hadith? Then I said, go to chapter 93 and read the last verse. God says, فَأَمَّا بِنِيمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. He mentioned the word in a verb form, verbal form, verb. He says, فَحَدِّثْ.
Right.
Now, فَحَدِّثْ means to narrate, to talk about it. You understand? To converse about it, to discuss about it. So if a verb can tell you, here, God has used hadith in a verbal form, verb. Why can't hadith mean narration? Why can't it mean speech? Why can't it mean conversation?
Right.
Because a verb is a word form, which gives you the notion on how to understand how a word is used.
That is true.
Do you see? So whenever God mentions certain word, even the word Quran, God has used it in a verbal form. In a verb form, you can find the verb of a Quran in the Quran. It means reading. Quran never means reciting.
That is true.
It's a wrong translation. The proper word for recitation is tilawa. It's found in chapter 2, verse 121 in the Quran. That's a proper word. And when there's a big difference between recitation and reading. Reading is anything which has been printed on a piece of paper, whether on a tablet, whatever it is, and I'm holding it and I'm reading it like this. But when we say recitation, it is something I've memorized in my head, and I'm reciting it from my mouth without even checking any tablet or anything. That is recitation. Brother
Shoaib, did you ever look at this Surah Hajj 22 verse 31? That's very interesting. Have you ever looked in that one?
22:31.
It's telling you how you.
Yeah.
Very interesting the way. I mean.
Yes, because since it tells you the shirk can nullify your works, it's just like a bird snatching you in the sky, same way. Because you become like a useless thing. That's why a bird can snatch you away.
So if somebody is committing shirk and doing other good stuff, how you analyze that?
It's just like being an immigrant in a country where you don't have a work permit in your work.
And you're doing this right.
It's useless.
It's useless.
Yes, because when you are caught by the police, every life savings you have done is useless. Police can confiscate it because you cannot prove that the money is legal.
So in your channel and in your Facebook, and when you talk to the people, what they argue about, like
the concept of understanding an ideology or a view has to start with don't check the person's personality and what he represents in the first place. I give an example. I'm not a Christian, right? Then I just met another Christian on the way, and he's telling somebody that do not kill somebody. It is not good to kill somebody. I'm a Muslim. Do I need to agree with that Christian on that statement or not?
Right.
Yes, because my Quran tells me the same. He said I shouldn't kill a soul out there unless by just, which means unless nafs bin nafs. That is, he has killed somebody, then we can use the law of God to also deal with him. That's kisas. But since I see a Christian telling people that do not commit murder is bad, I need to put his personality and his beliefs aside and agree to the truth he's speaking about. But when we are dealing with sectarians in Islam, they are not willing to listen to the word you are about to speak. They start judging you by your personality and what you represent. That is it.
Because they're never going to understand, because they have those different sects. So, like God actually says that, these people will never understand. They have their own, they created their own sects and they divided into sects, and they would never listen to you. Is that
in Quran? It says, Allah says, like, if you have preconceived notions, then you can never understand Quran.
no? That is another thing, but also that
right. If you have something like, you can never understand the true meaning of Quran. Is it like that?
It goes this way. Chapter 36, verse 11. Surah Al-Yasin. God says, إِنَّمَا تُنْزِرُ مَنِ اتَّبَعَ الذِّكْرَ وَخَشِيَ الرَّحْمَنَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Then he says, فَبَشِّرْهُ بِمَغْفِرَةٍ وَأَجْرٍ كَرِيمٍ. He says, you can only warn one who follows taba'a, mani taba'a zikra, the remembrance. That is the zikra, what God is remembering, causing remembrance to us. The message he's giving us in order to remember. You can only warn one who follows the zikra. وَخَشِيَ الرَّحْمَنَ بِالْغَيْبِ, and fears, that is God, in the unseen, which means by himself, he is already. Then God says, Bil-Gaib. Then he says, وَبَشِّرُ بِمَغَفِرَةٍ وَأَجْرٍ كَرِيمٍ. Then give him good news of forgiveness and a great, honorable reward. Now, the issue here is, verse 17 of the Quran, verse 45 to verse 46. This is what God says. He says, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ جَعَلْنَا بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ حِجَابًا مَسْتُورًا. He says, whenever you read the Quran, we place a concealed partition between you and those who do not believe in the hereafter. Then verse 46 says, وَجَعَلْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ أَكِنَّةً أَنْ يَفْقَهُوهُ وَفِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرًا. Then he says, وَإِذَا ذَكَرْتَ رَبَّكَ فِي الْقُرْآنِ وَحْدَهُ وَلَّوْا عَلَى أَدْبَارِهِمْ نُفُورًا. God says, and we place coverings over their hearts because of they disbelieve in the hereafter. So God says, when we place the coverings on their hearts, and then we put a seal on their ears,
right,
lest they comprehend the Quran. Because if God doesn't do that, they will understand what you're saying directly. But because of the consequence of disbelieving, that is why God will not give them the chance to understand it. So this is the simplicity here. God says, and when you mention your Lord in the Quran alone, because they have a preconceived idea, they want you to mention God not the Quran alone. They want you to mention God in other books, to mention Sahih Bukhari or any Bible or Gospel according to this, before they can understand you. Then God says, Wallahu ala adbarihim nufura. They hate the concept of you mentioning God in the Quran alone.
Yeah.
So which tells you, because they have a preconceived idea somewhere, they are not willing to cooperate with the truth you are saying. Because what? You are mentioning God in the Quran alone. They don't like that idea.
So tell me, brother,
yes.
If they're going on to their lives like that, and they don't even be spreading the message, you telling them, this is what the Quran says, I'm telling them the same thing, this is Quran says, this is the surah and words, but they're still giving priority to something else, which is, riwayat or hadith they call, and they said this is more important, Quran is not clear, and they're going on and on and on, and they don't come back to Quran, only Quran. So before they die, and they keep doing this. So what do you call this? I mean, they had actually committed shirk.
That is a mushrik and a kafir, two things together.
Two things together.
Yeah, I can answer it simply. It's a simple answer.
So also in some verse, I think I've seen that if they did not repent, if they didn't, like for example, there's one very good ayah, which is, I think they talk about Surah Al-Imran, I think it's 67. You know, when they talk about Ibrahim, Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, they're saying he was neither the Jew or a Christian.
Yeah, he was neither Jew or, yeah, it's 67. See, it starts from 66.
Yeah, 66. So he was not associating him with anybody else.
No.
He was just asking questions. Whether this is God, you telling me, okay, tell me about why is this. So they can always ask questions. Anybody can ask, do critical
obviously,
thinking.
Right. Obviously, this is what I represent. Whenever I do lectures, I want people to ask me questions because I've prayed to God to give me the knowledge. So when I have the knowledge, I should be able to answer the question of people because I represent God. I'm serving God. So I have to give God people the message of God. So you need to ask questions. For instance, when I started this interview with you, I explained to you in chapter 5, verse 101, God is telling the believers, do not ask about things. If giving the answer to you will distress you. If made clear to you, it will distress you. So ask about things when the Quran was revealed, which means your questions should be based on the Quran, because that is the book of guidance. But if you're asking for Brother Shuaib's opinion, or Brother Safra's opinion, or Sister Hina's opinion, we all have opinions.
Right.
I can tell you I like blue. He can say he like white. She can say she likes black. We all have opinion. But if it has to do with God, it's always one choice. We don't put our choices or opinions over God. You see how it works. Yes, so when it comes to people, you can never force people to believe what you're saying. What you do is, for people who are studying with me, people used to come to my house and study with me. They want to study the Quran, so they ask me questions and I answer them, right? Before the Corona issue started. But for people who come to me to study, this is what I tell them. I say, when you meet an opposition who is opposing to your beliefs, don't try to explain yourself to them. This is what you do. Start asking them logical questions about what they believe in. Just ask them questions. For a logical assessment of a religion, someone's religion, don't tell them they are wrong or right in anything they do. Don't tell them this is wrong, this is right. Just start asking them questions. Ask them, oh, does your religion allow shirk? They will say no. Then ask them, what is the concept of shirk in your religion? He will explain to you. Then you tell him, if this is shirk, then can I ask you? You say, yeah. Why do you associate Muhammad alayhi salam in your salat? Why do you do this here? He will start explaining himself. Then he say, Akhi, you know what? This is what the ulama told me. Me, I don't know.
Right. It's all their fault.
Exactly. Now, the Quran chapter 17, verse 36 says, do not follow or pursue what you do not know about. If you don't have knowledge about something, don't pursue it. So that is when you come in and you say, brother or sister, why, since you don't know and the ulama know, what if they are lying to you? So this is where they will have the conviction that they are really in a doubt. They don't have answers to the question. But when you, Brother Sefras, or me, Brother Shuaib, goes to them directly and wants to tell them, hey, you are wrong, you are this, you are that, you start heating up their emotions. And whenever somebody feels emotional in their religion, that is when even they have the chance they want to kill you, because they get so mad and irritated.
That's what happened back in subcontinent sometimes.
Yes, exactly. So this is why when I do my thing, I try to put in the humor sometimes to make it like that I'm not taking it personal with them. It's just humor. Come. Then I'll say, oh, come, €1,000 I'll give you. Like, I don't want it to be...
Let me stop here. I think I saw your clip.
Exactly.
You had offered people €1,000 if they can prove you that it's mandatory in Quran. Quran said you have to follow the hadith. You're gonna give them €1,000. Nobody came for your challenge.
No, nobody.
You still have €1,000? I mean, give away.
Yes, I do have.
Your offer still stands, right?
Yeah, it still stands. Till tomorrow, I can even double it if they want. I'm serious. I'm not joking.
Okay. So
I wasn't actually joking when I did that. I'm serious.
No, I know you're serious.
Yeah. I wasn't joking. But the point is to make it fun for the people to be convinced that, oh, really, Brother Shuaib is even giving them money and nobody's stepping up. Yes. Because I want people to understand something, that the most of the people, they don't understand their religion. They are only following the ulama. That is why I did that. So people might not understand why I was trying to do that. They will say, oh, why is he trying to do that?
You know what? The disappointing thing, Brother Shoaib, is I have talked to other people we have interviewed about this, that they don't use critical thinking, which Allah says you have to use that. That's why that's the difference between human and animals.
Yes,
if you're not
exactly.
using it, there's no, you become like an animal. You're not.
It's a fact. What you're saying is a fact. Let me give you the evidence. It's in chapter 25, verse 44 of the Quran, Surah Al-Furqan. God says, Am tasabu anna aktharahum yasma'una aw yakilun. God says, in whom illa kal an'am. Then he says, Balhum adallu sabila. He says, do you think that most of them, that is the people, they listen or they reason? This is what God is asking us. Do you think that most of the people, they listen or they reason? Then God says, they are just like livestock. Now, this is not me saying. Who created them? God. And who is describing them? God. This is not an insult. It's a description.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. But when an intellectual person like me is speaking, and then somebody comes to act stupid without understanding the message, now I'll just shorten what God said, then I'll say, look at the animal, look at an animal. When I say an animal, he might think I'm insulting him, but I'm just reinstating what God is saying. So when God says, then God says, Balhum adallu sabila. In fact, they are even more astray, worse than the animal. Because an animal even has a purpose. It has a purpose. He knows when to feed his kids. An animal can go out hunting. An animal knows how to do all this, right? Now, so if God has compared these people to an animal, the reason is, you, the human being, before an animal can understand your language, you need to teach them for several times before an animal can understand what you mean.
Right.
So how come a human being, you need a person to repeat things 1,000 times before you get what he's saying when he's talking to you every day? Right. So this is why God made that comparison. So people, yes, we have people who are just like animals. It's true. You say a word, they don't know what you're saying. They don't even care whether you said it.
And it's
blind followers. They're blind followers.
Who know us better than Allah? Obviously, this is a very good.
Exactly. So God made it's not an insult. God is the one telling us. He created them. So he is telling you. When a human being doesn't use his reasoning, God says he places filth, register. When we say register in the Quran, it means filth, to put something dirty in somebody's brain. God says if you don't reason, he put that in your head. That is in chapter 10, verse 100. Of course.
I think like, yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No,
yeah, I think like brain, like mind is a power. You can, if you have a will to do something, you can do it. Like, and if it's a pure, like Allah will, like appreciate and reward you if you have a pure thought and iman is strong. Then Allah will definitely guide you. There will be no restriction.
He will. There are two types according to the Quran. There are two categories of intelligent people in the Quran. The first group are those who can actually contemplate a reading, a writing, and understand. Then we have other ones, they cannot read, they can listen. And understand. Two categories of intelligent groups in the Quran. One can be found in chapter 39, verse 18, and the other one can be found in chapter 38, verse 29. Right? Now, not everybody can read an article.
That's true.
To understand. And not everybody can listen to an article, speech, and understand. That person will tell you, oh, Brother Safraz, I need a copy of the speech you just had. Because he wants to be sure and understand from the writing than to just listen and understand. So in these two ways, that is why when we go to school, we learn to what? Listen and write. Two things. We learn to listen and write. So we listen to the teacher and we write the answers down.
Yes.
Now, whenever somebody can read and write and listen, if you have these three gifts, you are very powerful wherever you go. if you can read, listen, and write. You are very,
nice.
very powerful.
Very good.
Now, whenever you have these three potentialities, you can actually study the Quran easily by yourself. Now,
there's aqilun.
Exactly. That is akal. That is people who reason. Now, when you go to Quran, chapter 41, verse 3 says, Kitabun fussilat ayatuhu Quranan Arabiyan liqawmi ya'lamun. God says it is a book, a book whose verses have been what? Elaborated. Elaborated means to give an explanation in detail.
Explanation itself, yeah.
You understand? So whose verses have been elaborated, but it says for who? For people who know. He didn't say for the Arabs. It never said for the Arabs. It says for people who know. Now, how can you know something without studying or investigating or checking?
You just need this.
Yes. So you have to use the reason, listen, read about it, write something at least to be acquainted with it. That is what will give you the knowledge, information. Because knowledge is a piece of information that you know.
And
everyone
has that. They just have to utilize it.
Yes, you have to use it. And this is why in some statement, people will say, use your common sense. Because the senses have been given by God already to us. Right. It just depends on the person how to use it. For instance, a friend of mine was using an iPhone. He came to me and we were doing something and he was using an iPhone. And for years, he has been using the iPhone. He never knew that whilst using the iPhone, and if you want to if you're typing and you want to move to the next page, you can just swipe like this. It moves to the next to start typing. He never knew. So when he came to me, I checked an article on YouTube and I saw it and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. So when I met my friend, I said, do you know how to do it? He said, no. I said, give me your phone to me. When he gave me the phone, I swiped and I moved to the next side and I started typing. Then he's like, wow, how did you do that? Then I'm like,
we have a lot of people like that in our family too.
So as soon as I did that, he was amazed. So he just learned something new. He was like, wow. Then I said, you've been using iPhone. I'm using Android. But I knew this before you. Yeah. The reason is because with the Quran is both theory and practical. Quran is not only theory. People think it's all about reading. Now, when something stands as your guidance, it is no more about theory again. The moment we say something is guiding you, for instance, if you are using a navigator in a car, it's no more about theory. We call it practical. Because you have to follow what the navigator is telling you to drive.
That's true.
Yes. So you have to follow it. So you are doing two things at the same time whilst using a navigator. You are learning to listen and then implement.
That's a very good example. If you don't follow the Quran, exactly, you drive your life properly.
Never. So that is why the Quran is a guidance. So any intellectual person who can read, write, and listen can understand the Quran. So this is why when the Quran is talking, or when I'm making my videos, sometimes I use words and people think I'm harsh. I might say, I'm not talking to fools. Somebody just see me who say, oh, why is this guy harsh? It's true, because the Quran is not meant for fools. So if I'm using intellectual statement from the Quran to address to intelligent people, I'm not, at that hour, I'm not there to talk to fools. But somebody would think I'm insulting people. It's not an insult.
Allah,
do you see how it works?
Yeah, Allah has used the very hard words. Like if it gives me goosebumps.
He created you. Yes, and He created you. You shouldn't be scared of you.
Yeah, we shouldn't be. And there is one ayat I would like to discuss it here, like Surah Yasin. It's 8, ayat 8.
Then it says, "Inna ja'alna fi anakihim, fi anakihim aglalan, fahiya ila al-azkani fahum muqma'un." Now this is where you just said verse 8. Now he started from beginning, but when you read verse 7, he was saying that laqad haqqal qawl. He's talking about the word that God has given out as a true word that they will not believe.
So these are kafirin, Allah is...
Yes, because most of the people of Muhammad, they rejected the Quran. Chapter 6, verse 66 confirms that. Chapter 6, verse 66. وَكَذَّبَ بِهِ قَوْمُكَ وَهُوَ الْحَقُّ. God told him, chapter 6, verse 66. His people rejected the Quran, most of his people, even though it is the truth. And that is why on the day of judgment, he, the messenger, will bear witness against his own people. Again, where he says, قَالَ رَسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّا قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَأْجُورًا. My people have taken this Quran as abandoned. He will bear witness against them. Now, before he brought the Quran, God already told him how his people will reject the Quran. But somebody will say, why did God send him? God wants to send it to testify, to make you testify that this is the truth. In the judgment day, you have no objection. Yes.
So
So
brother,
this is why...
what is the difference between kafirin and shirk? Like kafirs and people who commit shirk?
It is explained in chapter 98.
Okay.
So let me help you here. In the chapter 98, when you read chapter 98, you start from verse 1 to verse 5. The answer is there. When you check the difference, it says, لَمْ يَكُلِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ آلِ الْكِتَابِ. Then it says, وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ مُنْفَكِّينَ حَتَّى تَأْتِيَهُمُ الْبَيِّنَةُ. Now, you can only know the difference when we are dealing with proof, evidence.
Right.
Now, when somebody is a disbeliever, when you give him the evidence that this is what God is saying, he will tell you no. That is a kafir.
Okay.
Then we have a mushrik who cannot believe in God alone unless he has to associate another source to the statement. So he will tell you, I believe in the Quran, but give me the asbabun nuzul from hadith.
So I believe in God because of him. I believe in God because of that guy.
Exactly.
Or this scholar or this.
Exactly, like that.
Okay.
But a kafir, he rejects everything entirely. Yes, he will tell you, no, I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe in Quran. Put it aside.
So I think right now we're facing with a lot of mushrikeen rather than kafir. In the
Obviously,
Muslim
that is the majority on earth. God always bears emphasis on mushriks in the world. They are in the majority.
That's what we see most of the time right now at this time.
It is in chapter 12, verse 106. God said it explicitly. He said it himself. He says, وَمَا يُؤْمِنُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. He says, most of them do not believe in God except while they are mushriks.
Right.
Most of the people.
So you think, Brother Shoaib, these scholars, they're aware of this? What Quran says?
Yes, they are aware. Let me give you the answer from the Quran. Chapter 3, verse 78. He says, وَإِنَّ مِنْهُمْ لَفَرِيقًا يَلْؤُونَ أَلْسِنَتَهُمْ بِالْكِتَابِ لِتَحْسَبُوهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. Then he says, وَمَا هُوَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَيَقُولُونَ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ وَمَا هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. He says, and indeed, among them is a group. Among them, when we mean the Al-Kitab, whether Al-Quran, wherever you go, there is always a group. In whatever denomination of religion you go, there is always a group. Now, this group, what they do is they will twist the book with their tongues. They will use their tongue to twist something, to forge something, to distort something. Right. To make you, the person listening, they make you think it is from the book. لِتَحْسَبُوهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. Because you haven't studied the book, so you will agree with them because you know they are scholars. Then what they do is, God says, وَمَا هُوَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ, while it is not from the book, but because you haven't studied the book, you cannot know that what the scholar is saying is not in the book. Then what happens? وَيَقُولُونَ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Just like the hadith followers do. When they say a statement, they will tell you Allah says. They will say Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this. This is what they keep saying. So when they do that, then God says, وَمَا هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Why it is not from God? But how can me and you and I know it is not from God? We have to investigate from the book of God to check whether it's there or not. Then God says, وَيَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْكَذِبَ وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. God says they say lies about God while they know. You see, So a scholar lies to you. That's why we call them ulama. They know. It's not as if they don't know. But they don't have to tell you, because when they tell you, they will lose their position as an ulama over you.
They lose their business.
Yes. For instance, I have studied the Quran for so many years, and I know. If I tell you go and study likewise, does that mean I'm looking for to dominate you? No.
No.
You understand? I'm trying to make you an intellect also. But when I say come to me every day, come to my house, come to me, I'm gaining the dominance over you.
Yeah, like in current generation, we can say like they take religion as like they have feared of if they will go against something, like it will be, oh, so they take it like one, I was talking to him, like he says like I don't want to take risk, and that's why I will do
because
everything.
They want to be like a part of majority. They don't want to be
the peer pressure, or maybe I don't know what, but they want to do everything. They will do, like the hadith, what they are telling, and they will do the Quran thing also. Then they don't understand the mixing. They are mixing, and it's bad. Like they take it like it's normal.
Well, this is what God is saying, and that's why we're talking about the mushriks. That is what we call a mushrik.
That's what So this is
the person believes in God. Yes.
Yeah, it's very clear in Quran, like mixing, it's not okay.
Mixing is not allowed.
It's not allowed.
It is the biggest problem. That is shirk. So if Prophet Muhammad himself was warned that if he does any shirk, all his deeds will be worthless, then it means we have a great deal. Now, to simplify this issue, before I go to another evidence concerning shirk, I am giving you a verse in the Quran concerning how scholars know what the Quran says, but they don't tell people. Chapter 2, verse 159, Surah Al-Baqarah. God says, Inna allazina yakatumuna ma anzalna min al-bayyinat wal-huda min ba'di ma bayyanahu lin-nas fil kitab ulaika yalhanumullah wa yal'anumul. Now the verse is, indeed, those who conceal what we have revealed of the what? Proofs and the guidance. Now, here, this is something interesting here. If I don't know something, why will I conceal it?
Yeah, that's the point.
Right.
Let's say I never knew what diamond is. I don't know what diamond is, and I saw a diamond out there. Why will I take it and hide it in my pocket? Why am I hiding it?
Yeah, conceal means they know it, and then they are hiding.
Yes. So now God sent out the warning. Indeed, those who conceal, the word yaktumu comes from the word katama. Katama. That is to hide something, to conceal it.
Right.
Yes. So God says, yaktumuna ma anzalna min al-bayyinat. If you are looking for bayyinat, proofs, it can be found in the Quran. Every proof you need is there concerning the deen. Because God has already completed the religion. Chapter 5, verse 3. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum islam dina. He has completed it. So whenever a building is complete, a constructor tells you the building is complete, do we need to do anything again?
No.
No.
That's clear.
And then in Surah 159, you said, I mean, those people are playing very dangerous game.
Yes. This is why I'm enlightening people. The question is, if you don't study and your teacher makes a mistake, how do we correct him? Do you see the point here? If a student doesn't study to get the answers,
a student doesn't study,
yes, and the teacher makes mistake, how do we correct him? So chapter 2, verse 159,
right?
God says, indeed, those who conceal what we have revealed of the proofs and the guidance, because guidance can also be found in the Quran. Chapter 45, verse 11, God says, Haza hudan. This is guidance. The Quran you are reading. It says, this is guidance. Chapter 2, verse 2 says, Zalika al-kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin. That is the book wherein there is no doubt, as guidance for the pious. So guidance can be found in the Quran. So since we know guidance can be found, and we know the proofs can be found in the Quran, if I'm a scholar of the Quran, why am I hiding it? Why will I hide it from people? You get the point. I need to remove the guidance and show it to the people. I don't need to hide it. Why am I hiding it? So God says, Min ba'di ma bayyanahu linnas, after we have made it clear to the people. Oh, which means God has already made it clear, but since some scholars know, they start telling people, "Akhi, you cannot understand the Quran. You need Sahih Bukhari. You need this. You need that." Because when you also know, why call somebody a scholar again?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Do you see how it works? Because
Right.
then you know the weakness of the scholar, since you also know. Because if he's lying, you can say, "Hey, that guy is lying." That word is not like that. It's not there that way.
It's maybe they're going to lose their business if they're not going to.
Yes, it's a business. This is what they are doing.
Everybody, Brother Shoaib, if everybody read Quran themselves and understand, there's no need
Yes.
for to go to their whatever they have, schools or scholars places. So how they
Well,
going to make money?
there is the way to start. For instance, if I want to drive a car, I cannot just buy a car and start driving. It doesn't work that way. Do you get my point?
Right.
In the beginning, I need somebody to help me, show me how to drive first in the beginning.
Right.
Then after I've learned how to drive, and now I'm driving, do I need his help again or her help again? No.
No.
I'll drive alone.
Right.
Somebody might say, "Okay, Brother Shoaib, if you're talking against scholar, then why do you call yourself a scholar?" I'm a scholar based on showing the people. I'm not hiding. I'm the type of scholar who doesn't hide what God says. I bring it out in order for other people to become scholars as well, because everybody has to be learning. Because first of all, the wisdom of God, chapter 17, verse 36, he says, "Do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge." So in the first place, who wants us to become scholars? It's God.
Right.
Because chapter 17, verse 36 clearly says, "Do not follow or pursue what you do not have knowledge about."
Right.
And what is the definition of a scholar? Somebody who has gained mastery in a branch for a long period. He has studied it for a long time and he has understood it to the highest level. That's what makes you a scholar. So if I'm a scholar in a particular knowledge of the Quran, I need to, whoever comes to me, I need to teach him the same routine that I passed, in order for him to gain that same mastery, so that if I am making mistake, he can cross-check me and tell me, "Brother Shoaib, here you were supposed to say 2, you said 1. Then I can correct it.
If you will do critical thinking.
That is the point.
See, the
If
problem,
there is-
This is why a person like me is out there to give the tools to the people. You need to be able to teach. Why do you think when we have to learn driving, we have to go to the driving schools to learn? We go there so that they can also give us the tools on how to operate on the car. Then we can also, so now that if I've learned how to drive, it's easy for me to teach another person because I know. You see, so in the beginning, when you are seeking for scholars to teach you, you are not in for their opinion. You have to be factual. Ask them what the Quran says. Don't ask them, "What is your understanding? What is your opinion? Do you think this is black? Do you think this is blue?" No. Brother Safraz, check the wall of Nadira's room. This is Nadira's room. Check the wall. The color is white. True or false?
Yeah, it's white.
And I can vow, I can call God to witness that no scholar on earth can prove me wrong on this wall that is white.
That is true.
That is what we call the absolute truth. And this is what the Quran, that is what the Quran represents.
Right.
So some people will tell you, then if that is the case, why do we all have different understandings of the Quran? I will tell you why there are different understandings on the Quran. Because people are using the wrong means to find meanings in the Quran.
Right.
Just like driving. When you go to different driving schools, you will learn different tricks from different teachers when they are teaching you how to drive.
Right. That's true.
Then you go somewhere and do a certain trick that a particular teacher taught you. The examiner, the driving examiner, who might tell you this is wrong. Don't do that.
Right.
Yes. So similarly, when it comes to the Quran, there are guide rules. And the source of that knowledge must not come from a human being. It has to come from God.
Very good.
If you check chapter 18, verse 65, Musa alayhi salam, he went to seek for knowledge from another servant of God. It doesn't necessarily mean because he was a prophet and a messenger of God means he knows everything. No. he has to collaborate with another servant of God. Just like the good work you're doing, Brother Savras, bringing the Quran alone scholars together so that we can work together to give people the understanding of the Quran.
Inshallah. Yeah.
Now, what needs to be done is, if I have an understanding of the Quran and you also claim you're following the Quran, you have an understanding, we have to have a mutual conversation respectfully. You understand? You give your view, I bring my view. Then we analyze which one carries water
Weight.
and which exactly. Then the one which is less in weight, we put it aside.
Right, that's true.
It's just like a tournament. We play a tournament, then the one will take, obviously one has to take the cup. This is how it works. But if we have to stay, just because Brother Shrine says he believes in the concept of salat as prayer, and you say you don't believe in salat, just because you are following the Quran, but you claim you don't believe in salat, doesn't mean we should be at loggerheads and hate each other.
Right.
So chapter 18, verse 110, God asked the messenger to say, Kul, innama ana basharu mithlukum, yuha ilayya annama ilahukum ilahun wahid. فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربي فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربي أحدا. The messenger has been asked to say, just like whenever God says, Kul atiu Allah wa atiu Rasul, obey God and obey the messenger. Now we cannot see God, we cannot hear God. The only way we can hear God or listen to his message is through the Quran. But the only way we can get the Quran is through the messenger, because he has to receive the message and bring it to us. So Quran chapter 20, verse 2 to verse 3 says, Ma anzalna alayka al-Quran litashqa. We did not reveal the Quran upon you in order to distress. Illa tazkiratan liman yakhsha, except to serve as a reminder for whoever fears. That is, whoever fears God. So since he is the messenger, he has been instructed to say, so whenever God says, obey God and obey the messenger, whenever you check the Quran, every word you are reading is the word of God. But when you see kul, the word kul, that kul is only attributed to the messenger. He has the right to utter that statement there. So when God says, Atiullah wa atiu Rasul, you are supposed to obey the Quran on its entirety as the word of God. Then whenever you see kul, 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 kul in the Quran, that is a messenger entitled to come and speak to the people on that subject. So when you obey that statement as well, you are obeying God and the messenger. That's how it works. It doesn't mean go and obey hadith or sahih Bukhari. No.
Right.
So now in that verse, he has been told to say, I am only a human like you. This is to simplify the issue. Right. He wasn't a human being like a superhuman. No, right. Like you, to see the ordinariness of the prophet, so that you don't elevate him to the extent that God hasn't done. So God asked him to say it by himself. Right. I'm only a human like you, to whom has been inspired that your God, Ilahun, you can see here, it attributes to God as Ilahun. Just like when you read Surah An-Nas, it says Ilah in-Nas, God of mankind, deity of mankind. Yes, you can call God Ilaha, but that is why he keeps telling you, La ilaha illa Allah. Right. So calling God Ilaha is not a problem, right? He is a God. But you need to understand, he is the only Ilaha. There is no other Ilaha. Right. Then he says, Ilahukum ilahun wahid, is only one God. Then he says, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّي, whoever is expecting to meet his Lord, فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلَ صَالِحًا, he should act righteous deeds. You have to be good to people, be good to your parents, do good to others, don't do corruption, don't do this. That is how to act righteous. Right. Then he says, وَلَا يُشْرِكُ بِإِبَادَتِهِ رَبِّي أَحَدًا, and should not associate. You see the word shirk comes here. Wala yushrik bi ibadatihi, in the religion, meaning serving God. When it comes to the worship of God, serving God, don't associate anyone. He used the word ahada. So now check carefully. The messenger started speaking by saying, I am like you. Right. Then he ended by saying anyone, so including him.
Right.
So when it comes to the service of God, serving God, the religion of God, worshiping God, the moment you include any other entity, be it an angel, a human, an animal, a book, you are a mushrik. So apart from God himself warning the prophet in chapter 39 verse 65, we can see the prophet himself as a messenger also telling us the same statement, that we shouldn't associate anyone in the worship. So that is why I gave you chapter 51 verse 56, where God says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the jinn and the human except to come and worship me, to serve me.
Yes, the message is clear.
It's very clear.
It's very clear.
Yes.
I think it's what you have explained is very good. People will realize how important it is, to read the Quran and understand the Quran, and don't follow like other scholars, because you give an example, right? Because when you give an example of a driver, you learn driving and you start driving. But the problem with the scholars, even if you start, learn driving, this scholars saying that you still need a driver. So scholars are gonna drive for you.
Yes, exactly like that. That is where the corruption comes in.
Because they want their business. If you don't hire them as a driver, how long are gonna get paid? So
exactly.
So I think you had pretty much covered everything, and I really thanks for your time today. But in the end, I would always ask my guests to please give a message to our viewers. What is the importance of this subject and why people should come to Quran only and try to understand and learn Quran? How important do you think it is?
Yeah, first of all, when it comes to the Quran, I've already given the advice earlier on that when you are good at listening, reading, and writing, you need these three tools to approach the Quran. And apart from that, whenever you are dealing with the Quran, like how we spoke a few days ago, I was just giving the notion that whenever you are dealing with the chapter of the Quran, put the chapter in your head first, mark it down. The chapter is relevant to what you are reading. Is very, very important. So in Arabic, they call something mawdu. Mawdu means subject or a topic.
Yeah, topic.
You can never, ever study a subject without knowing the subject. It doesn't work that way. So you need to know a subject or a topic of discussion. Without a topic, you are messed up. You don't know whether you're going left or you're right. So you need to know the subject, mawdu. Then apart from the subject of the Quran, you need to do what we call context, siyaq al-kalam. In Arabic, siyaq al-kalam, that is context. Then apart from the context, you need to deal with the content, that is the message on its own, the content, which is what we call muhtawa in Arabic. Muhtawa means you are dealing with the content. So these three things is a guideline to approaching the Quran in the first place. Then when you are seeking for a scholar's help, please don't seek for his opinion or don't seek for his personal understanding. For instance, the general answer to 1 + 1 is 2. We all know that 1 + 1 is 2. So if somebody else has to convince you that 1 + 1 is 3, he must be able to prove it. And when he proves it, it shouldn't be an opinion. Because that is where the problem starts, with the opinion. So somebody will say, Brother Shuaib, what is your concept of shirk in the Quran? After I give the evidence, he will go to another person. What is your concept of shirk? Then the person will say, oh, according to my understanding, that is where you have to cut the thing off. No, there's nothing like my understanding. When a fact is a fact, it's not about personal understanding anymore. You understand? When we are dealing with fact, it's not about personal understanding. Like, for instance, I cannot tell you that the guidance came to me in 2010. I'm telling you, Brother Savraz, that the guidance came to me in 2010 before Ramadan. Then I will go to another channel and say the guidance came to me in 2011. Now, is that the truth anymore?
Right.
No.
No, it's not.
It never be the truth. So when we are seeking for guidance, remember the Quran is the book of guidance. So when you are seeking for guidance from another scholar, where should the guidance come from?
From Quran.
The Quran. So if I'm guided by the Quran and you come to me to teach you guidance, I need to teach you what I've understood from the Quran as the guidance. I don't need to give you my opinion and say, oh, according to my understanding, I think this is blue. The moment somebody is teaching you and use the word I think or I assume or my view, no, it doesn't work anymore. We don't call that the truth. So the answer can be found in chapter 10, verse 36. God says, وَمَا يَتَّبِعُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ إِلَّا ظَنَّ إِنَّا ظَنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. He says most of them follow nothing but assumption. And assumption does not avail against the truth. So if you have the truth, give it to the people. If you have assumption, keep it to yourself, an opinion. Don't bring it out. Because most of the Quran alone followers, this is what they do. They bring opinions and views from themselves. Now imagine if at the time of the Prophet, everything was done by views and opinions. Will we get the Quran today as the truth?
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
No. So the truth is always one. But don't expect every believer to agree to the truth. Even chapter 8 of the Quran, verse 5, the Prophet himself at his time, even some believers didn't agree with the truth, he told them. It's normal. Just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean it's lie. Do you see how the fact works? So
Right.
we have people, the reason why I exhort every believer of the Quran alone to understand that when you believe in the Quran doesn't mean you understand everything from the Quran. Some things come to you gradually. So even if Brother Shuaib has understood it before you, what you need to do is don't go ahead rejecting Brother Shuaib. What you need to do is don't take the approach first. Wait till you also have knowledge before
Right.
you also take the approach. But it doesn't mean you should reject it. So to summarize this, Quran chapter 39 verse 55 actually says it. That follow the best of what your Lord has revealed to you. Follow the best. So which means if God has revealed the Quran to me and I'm following, does that mean I have to follow everything in the Quran? Brother Savraz, it's a tricky question. Does that mean I have to follow everything in the Quran? Can you
No.
answer that?
No.
Exactly, no. Lessons of Pharaoh inside the Quran. I can find the lessons of Iblis in the Quran. Must I follow also? No. I don't need to follow the lessons of Pharaoh to act like him. Must I act like him also? No.
Right.
Must I act like Iblis? No. Even though
But
the story is in the Quran.
Very good point, because the other day we talked about that. You said you gave reference to one of the ayat. And
Yes.
so character is more important than other things, because character
Exactly.
is first before you go on to the other
Yes.
things. So,
Yes. So if you are dealing the Quran, God says follow the best of what he has revealed. So it
right.
doesn't mean since I believe, of course, you have to believe in the Quran and in its entirety. Everything you read in the Quran must be believable. But it doesn't mean you have to follow everything in the Quran.
I got
No.
tricked. I thought, yes, you have to follow everything when
No, follow everything, but
Quran.
it is relevant to you.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not relevant.
You
like
follow what is
Brother Shoaib
relevant
was
to
saying.
you.
The commands
Exactly.
are to
No.
be followed.
Right. Brother Shoaib was saying
Exactly.
a lot of things about Quran talks about something which is not relevant to you.
History and
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. For instance, for example, before we end, when I went to learn driving, I had 3 teachers who taught me how to drive. Now, one of them told me that it's not a must to implement whatever all of the 3 have taught me. I can only decide to use one
Right.
of the 3 teachers. I don't need to use all their ideas to drive. No. So similarly, when you take the Quran, this is why God chose Ibrahim for us, to follow the millata Ibrahim, follow the footsteps of Ibrahim. Are you telling me there is no Isa, there is no Musa, there is no Nuh, there is no Hud? They are all there. But why did God choose the best for you? Because that is the best. So follow his example. It doesn't mean you don't believe in the other ones. Believing is normal. You can believe.
Right.
But it doesn't mean follow everything. Because there are some things the other prophet or the other Nana Maryam did, or the wives of the prophet did, you be able to do it.
Yes,
It
never
doesn't mean
thought
you
of
don't
that.
believe.
And it's not possible to follow all. You know, like
everything. No, God
And
never said
also,
follow
yeah,
everything.
and also if you don't understand, like you said in the show in the beginning, if you don't understand something completely,
Yes.
then you don't have to, follow
Practice it.
something because somebody's saying that. No, you have to
No.
research yourself. You have to come
Exactly.
to a conclusion from Quran. If you
Exactly.
understand 100%, then you go ahead and
Then you follow. That is it.
same
Because
thing with
that is the wisdom of God. Yes.
same thing Ibrahim alayhi salam. It's the same
Yes.
concept. When you
Exactly.
look at
Exactly.
Surah Al Imran 367, when you look at
Exactly.
the same thing.
That is the
So
point. So this is why God says in chapter 17, verse 30, says, وَلَا تَخَفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. Do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. So you have to be able to have knowledge, have the certainty that you have the knowledge. For
Right.
instance, you cannot come to me. I know about phones and computers. I know software, how to install Windows and do other. If you come to me and say, Brother Shuaib, do you know how to install Windows? I have no doubt. I have to tell you yes. But that doesn't mean I know everything about
Right.
software.
That's a very good
No.
point. Yeah.
So I will only use the best that I know to serve you. So similarly, go with the Quran. If you come to me, Brother Shuaib, you say, hey, I need to talk about this subject. What do you think? If I'm not really, really 100% deeply rooted in that subject, I can tell you, Brother Savrat, on that subject, I still have something I'm studying. So not till I finish that, I cannot talk about it.
See, the problem is,
Simple.
Brother Shoaib, nowadays we don't have that many people like you because who can say honestly, okay, listen, I don't know that much. Instead of justifying left and right, going back and saying, give you false thing, but they try to be, well, I'm above
Exactly.
than you. I still know
Yes.
everything, I'll tell you. Even though you don't know
This is
100%.
what the
That is
majority
the
of the scholars
problem.
do.
That is the
Yes,
problem.
that is what the scholars do. Exactly what you said, Brother Savras. That's what the majority of the scholars are doing today. Instead of saying they don't have the answers, they will try to lie to you, or they will bring somebody's opinion. Then they will say, according to this ulama or this hadith or this book, go and read that book. It says this, it says that. You see where the problem starts. So
yes,
okay,
you are right. You are right.
Okay.
my soldiers said it's time.
Okay, thank you again. Thanks again. Thanks to you, viewers.
Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum.
I appreciate the time.
We will
Yes.
inshallah, meet you again.
Yeah,
Okay,
inshallah.
inshallah.
And thanks for the honor. And salam alaikum to
Assalamu
everyone. I appreciate the time.